Craig, thanks as always for your time on AFL.com.au.
Good to see you, mate.
Fourth year about to enter. How have you changed personally inside that time?
On a personal note, how much?
Yeah.
What have changed?
Yeah.
A lot more attention, a lot more dealing with the things in the spotlight more than I probably have the 4 years prior to that. So that's been something to come to terms with.
Has there been something that's more profound than others that has changed you? I mean, you obviously experienced a lot of emotion inside the 3 completed seasons. There's been the ultimate success, there's been a missed finals campaign, there was the unknown initially back in 22, and now you've got this 2025 entry where you're a seasoned AFL coach, aren't you?
Oh, seasons, it's hard to feel like you're seasoned, but I know that each campaign has a different feel to it and the journey that you go on, and throughout the last few years a lot of reflection about each time how we get better and all those things that happen with it. I don't think you can ever feel comfortable in this role, as much as that sounds silly. I do feel comfortable doing the job, but I don't think you feel comfortable in the role. So I don't know if it makes sense.
I know right now it's about 2025 and what's happened in the past, it really doesn't matter, but you weren't that far off last year despite the narrative being reigning premier, missing finals.
Yeah, small margins, isn't it? Like you do the ladder predicted late in the year, you wouldn't know who's going to finish where and
beat the ultimate premier late.
Yeah. Look, I think we reflected the year interestingly because we sat, funnily enough, in this room and reviewed everything from where we were in ball movement and all these different stats that you analyse yourself within an inch of your life, and then you go, no, let's take a breath here, because you can't review the year as an entirety because the year itself had so many different points, and that was just our journey. We started the year and poorly and didn't hit the ground running really till around 4 or 5, and then had a whole patch where we didn't lose a game for 10 or 12 weeks, including a couple of draws. And then we had a patch where we lost 4 in a row, and then we got a mojo going late, knowing that we were coming hard, but then time and percentage and wins weren't enough. So in that context, it's a lot of different parameters in the year and timeline. So it was hard to review it in entirety, but I think ultimately we didn't get where we wanted to get to, and with that comes improvement in front of us.
Yep. As part of that review, was any blame apportioned to the old-fashioned hangover effect that you talked about in this interview this time last year that you were hopeful wasn't going to have an effect?
Depends on what context of hangover, because I read a book about winning ways with the things that are going to be in front of you, and there was a lot of stuff that we lived from. I think probably, just to probably digress a bit, I reckon we learned a lot of lessons about ourselves. The way that we prepare our experienced players was something that really stood out. The way we played players that were fit to play but maybe not fit to perform. We did that quite often because their magnets look good on the team. You go, oh, that makes us look better, but then you go, hey, that player's not ready to perform. So those things will hopefully hold us in good stead going forward.
Then you had the decision to make, as part of all that, I suppose, consideration of the year, to go again with some senior players who obviously might have been line ball on some. I'd imagine you're really comfortable with that decision you made.
Yeah, because we see what our experience gives us. For a young player that, Will Hayes, no one's seen this young lad yet, but for him to sit next to Scott Pendlebury for a whole pre-season and be shown how to prepare, and then you got the likes of still Sidebottom with other players. These guys, what they bring to our culture, I'm not in a hurry to get rid of that. I don't think anyone would be. If you could actually go to work and see these guys, Howie, the way they lead, we call them legacy leaders now, they don't have a title, but the way they lead in their environment, create culture, and then solidify who we want to be, I don't think anyone would be in a hurry to get rid of that. I understand there's always a tipping point for things, but also in context of this year, we were going to give up potentially 3 of our greats of all time, arguably, some of them, and for late picks in the draft. I'm not sure many people would make that decision based on that context, but before that even, I would say, regardless of the picks in the draft, just for now, that what we see Monday to Friday, Saturday, Sunday, these guys are incredible role models for our list.
Obviously from the outside in, and I'm asking you, is it the same inside that you are all in? Like, is it the last role for this group? Because that is the narrative, whether you like it or not out there in the public.
Yeah, I think that language is a poker term, and so that's his last chips in. I think is that where it comes from. But I think in terms of us, we want to be all in everything we do. We don't want to shy away from that.
So there's no, I suppose, giving up a potential future with what you're doing in 25 in your eyes?
No, well, we're in a growth mindset.
Yep.
I think you've heard me say that multiple years now, which means tomorrow could be our best day. We prepare well for it, and there's no ceiling on that. Don't put ceilings on anything. We understand that the competition's set up to have, if you're up here and down here, you get rewards to try to get the balance of it right. But I'd like to think that in this situation, we're just trying to continue to improve ourselves, and then meet every situation with a mindset that let's get better.
Yeah.
So this year it was picks over players, players over picks, but that was sort of in context too, that we're negotiating, a player we loved, Johnny Noble, with another club at the time, that we're offering a really mediocre pick really for his services, and we're going, hang on, we love Johnny. I'd rather have a player than a pick. But in context of some years, we want picks over players, and there's a tipping point coming for some of our list, but why would we put ceilings on things? Time will tell, won't it?
Yeah, it always does. So those older guys you've already touched on, Pendlebury, Sidebottom, Howe, others, Will Hoskin, Elliott, for instance, do they all play together for the whole year, or do you already now start to plan where one won't play this week, one won't play the next?
I thought that last year gave some really good feedback over what the game's doing.
Yep.
And I think if you're naive to think where you start is where you'll finish. You look at the game early, it'll be really hot and transitional, and then you actually use the seasonal language of like summer, autumn, winter and spring, and we all want to be playing in spring, but the game looks different in winter, doesn't it? So I think our list will look different at times, and our best 22, want for a better term, will look different at times, because we'll just manage what the game's required at that time. Sometimes you don't get that luxury because you have just a depth of injuries which most people go through. But I think if the word managing, I think we'll just put the best team out there, what we think will get the job done at that period.
That day. Yeah. Yep. Are you aided by having an on-field coach out there at the moment too? For the best part of your 3 years in the game already?
Oh yeah, he's a remarkable player and person, and like I said, he hasn't played a game this year, but what he's already done in our walls to make us better, maybe you had to rub shoulders to see the depth of what he can do to our group, and then you put him out in the field with others, and he's demanding things, and he's coached ball movement this year for us, going another level of that, highly invested, and still looks extremely fit. So we'll manage Pendles the best we can to get him to ideally where we need him in spring.
Yep. If
we're lucky enough to get to spring, having him play his best footy.
Yeah. You spoke this time last year about what he had done in that last quarter of that grand final in 2023. Did he even take that aspect of his game to further heights last year, and by the sound of it again this year in the off-season?
He played with a lot of injury last year, Pendles. This is the things that gets missed. We see outcomes, we don't see process, we don't see struggle. That's just the reality of our industry.
Yep.
Opinions and judgment come from outcomes. And then we see players play with incredible injury, and he goes, you wouldn't know. And most people wouldn't play, and he's playing with it and playing well, sometimes struggling through it. Judgment comes, but we're so lucky to have experience. I think people want to call us old. I'd say we're extremely experienced, and that experience is going to serve us in good stead in a lot of places.
The Dan Houston acquisition, it's amazing you got access to him, wasn't it? Because he, in most people's eyes, was the main uncontracted player at Gettable.
Yeah. No, we're rapt to have Dan, and I also understand that you look at the statistics of how we play versus Port, that we're a different team, and so expectations of plug and play, and he's going to be this All-Australian. We don't have anything in our dialogue about needing Dan to be All-Australian. We want to be an All-Australian Collingwood player and fit into our system and the way we play. But he's an exceptional talent. I've never seen a guy kick the ball as good as him.
Really?
Oh, maybe Nick Daicos.
I was going to ask.
Different type of kicks though. His penetration is unbelievable. He's like the quarterback that can just hit the wide receiver, like with the big long passes. So no, we're very lucky to have him. And again, we're in this position of free agency is something that we want to keep exploring. It's a small pond with big fish in it. It's hard to catch them. That's real. So we want to make the most of those opportunities that come across our desk.
Yep. You've seen the 3 years that he's played Nick Daicos to this point. You just mentioned him. There's the leadership now officially attached to his name now at the club in a vice-captaincy perspective. Is this the next step for him, given that what we've already seen to this point is extraordinary when it comes to talent?
Yeah. No, he's a remarkable talent, so driven and focused on being better. He's only, is he 21? Something like that. I think he could be close to it. Yeah, the title's one thing, but what the reality of the voting was that the players vote for this, and overwhelmingly want Nick to be in this position to lead us to the next direction, and we'll support him to be whatever that looks like.
I remember you spoke about him this time last year, and you said that he just does stuff that no one else does, and he doesn't seek credit for that. But is he still doing that too?
Yeah,
even though
he should come watch us train. It's amazing. Even the fans just go, "This guy's nuts." Like, he'll do match play. He's just tearing it up.
Yeah.
And so he treats every training session like it's the most important training session he's ever done, which is, kids listening home, he's just getting better every day. You know, that's what he does. And so we're on a journey with him. Like, you think about our progression as a team, he's definitely dragged us to a place that maybe others didn't think we were capable of. And as long as he's fit and healthy, he's going to challenge a lot of opposition players.
Yeah. He could have won 2 Brownlows in years 2 and 3.
Yeah, and that's again, they're nice shiny outcomes, but we see the process of hard work driven struggle, injuries, what he does to get his body right, what he gives to others, how he sets up others. So it would have been nice, but yeah, I'm sure his time will come.
Yep. You mentioned the phrase yourself, picks and players, and obviously you got some players who we haven't yet spoken about in light of the older players we have. Can you just outline some potential growth in this team? Hugh Jath and Will Hayes amongst them? Yeah,
we want our youth to bounce, and we want to give opportunity to that. That's just evolution. We need that. We're hopeful that, you know, young Will Hayes, picked 50 odd in the draft. He's got some exceptional talent. He's got agility like Bobby Hill, and he won the agility at the draft camp. So he looks like a player that's going to be exciting for us going forward. And then you got Charlie West, a big key kid from South Australia, 18-year-old kid, looks like the old-fashioned full forward. He just comes out barrel-chested and hasn't missed a beat. Those guys have been exciting in the pre-season. And then we've got the likes of Will Parker's had a sniff, and Ed Allen's had a sniff. You know, TJ, these guys, we need to put a lot of energy in and develop into these guys so they can then transition to be part of our furniture for the future.
And you won't be afraid to pick them when their time's right?
There's a level of like, you know, I know internally I'm going, mate, we're going to give you opportunity. And there's a level of maybe not quite ready to grab it yet. So you can see it. I've been around long enough to go, not quite ready. But the opportunities will present. They just have to, because we want these guys to make it.
Yep. Are you able to make a call on Jordan De Goey now for the first game?
I'm going to say he's unlikely without rolling the line through him. Like, he's growing enormously day by day. So like, his training session yesterday was as good as he's done all pre-season. He's running at 100% capacity. So all the things that you want to see, they're just getting out. I think it'd be too early to call a line. Okay. Put a line through it yet.
Darcy Moore, you mentioned Scott Pendlebury having some injuries we didn't hear about at the time. Was he also in that same boat last year?
Somewhat, but that's his to share if he chooses to. He missed 2 pre-seasons in a row. I think that in this game now, it's very difficult to be at the top of your game without doing some level of that. He had a disappointing year. I don't think he'd be the first to say that, and it's really pleasing to say, or to see him do such a strong pre-season now. He looks like a guy that's ready to have a great year. Yep. He's put a lot of hard work into his game.
Yep. I'm assuming you had those conversations with him daily last year.
Well, one of the things I was really determined to do was at the end of the year is to really manage up well and align ourselves across the whole footy club. So Darcy and I caught up weekly,
yeah.
Amongst other times.
Well, they hard conversations when your captain isn't performing the way you and he want him to?
See, the level of the language of hard is interesting, because it might come across stern because I'm not smiling at him, but there was some conversations we had about certain things that we want to do together and I need of him and what the group needs of him. Yeah, those conversations we had, but I wouldn't say they were hard. They were just having a conversation about where we're going.
Yep. And it's all rectified now? He's done a pre-season?
I'm not sure what rectified means. Like, he's had a great pre-season. He set himself up for a great year, and then we're going to run the race.
The Tom Mitchell situation McRae. How's he going? Because he's obviously round 6 or thereabouts, hasn't been seen since, and obviously he's had a setback in the off-season as well. Is he in your considerations?
Oh, again, you think about the seasons of the year.
Yeah.
When would you want Tom to be playing? Winter and spring, in my eyes. The game's so combative and contested that he'll be just at his best. It'll be a great asset for us. So, unfortunately, he's had some setbacks. The foot was operational. The plantar fascia stuff become a stage where they operated, and then there was always a chance that like a stress-related injury could come from that and it presented itself. So then we pulled right back, and now he's building again, and he's in full training. He did match play the other day, but I think he's probably a bit more longer term.
Yep. Obviously, Damian Barrett coming into his 3rd year, and the injuries that he's suffered in the 2 years he's been there, and the unfortunate 2023 series. And then Myercheck, obviously, I think it's only 5 or 6 times they've played in the same team together. Is this really exciting that you could get a chunk of them playing together? Yeah,
we had to manufacture a lot with our forward line last year. Again, you guys make comment on outcomes of scores, 10 goals, 11 goals. Go through those games and have a look at that forward line at times. We were doing some incredible things to score. We were the highest scoring team, or one of the highest scoring teams inside 50, with a forward line with Lockie Schultz, Will Hoskin-Elliott and Jamie Elliott as their key forwards. That was the cards we were dealt. Let's get to work, let's find a way to score. But it's really nice to think you've got someone like Dan that can straighten us up. Dan he's so fit and strong, looks really good. He hasn't played much footy, and we got to remember that. But it's nice to have kick it into the tools and someone who goes bang. He's got sticky fingers when he's on.
Yeah, and obviously McRae also coming in. Do we assume they all play in the same forward line? As in, is there room for all three?
Well, we're going to explore all things. Yeah. Again, we don't know yet. They haven't played together yet. We might see this weekend and see what that looks like. We'll give all things a chance. Like, I don't have a fixed mindset. It has to look like this, and it has to do that, and it should smell like this, and should taste like that. Like, well, let's try that, and within reason. We don't want to tie ourselves in knots, but we'll explore all things. We've found a way to score with a small forward line. We've found a way to score with tools, and we'll just maybe get a combination of all. We'll see what the game needs.
Yep. It was a pretty big story this time last year, the whole Jack Ginnivan exit, and obviously Lockie Schultz coming in as part of that. Just Ginnivan specifically, are you surprised what he did himself personally in 24?
In terms of?
The form?
Oh, I was expecting him to have a great year.
Yep.
Yeah, because he had a disappointing year and a disappointing off-season in terms of preparation. He self-admit that. So there was always going to be a spike, I thought. So no, it doesn't surprise me at all. He's a high talent. Looked really happy. Yeah, we're wrapped for him.
Yep. You don't ever revisit those decisions and wonder what if you could have kept him? Or
No, his decision to leave, remember. We always sort of hear with open arms, but once he made the decision he's going, we go, that stuff is history now.
Yeah.
But, no, we still love him from afar.
From afar. Yeah. Lockie Schultz too, I'm assuming he's going to be better for the 12 months of experience he's had as a Collingwood player.
Yeah, I think the last year's pre-season was a grind for him. We trained differently to some, and you could tell him coming to terms with what that was doing, what we're asking of him physically. And the game plan's different. We're asking him to play different roles. I'm already seeing things that he looks so much more comfortable. He was caught up in a bit of the judgment too of we got you and the cost of that and all that and the narrative around it, with which comes with this game, which was difficult for some to come to terms with. But I'm excited for what Lockie's going to bring to the table for us long term. Yeah.
Slight role changes believed to be in play with Daicos potentially just changing ever so slightly. Can you take us through that? Or
we've tried Josh across half-back all pre-season, so we think his ability to rebound late in the year last year was exceptional and asked a lot of the opposition. And then with him and Dan, we hope we can get some good rebound off the half-back, which is a critical part of the game.
So Dan and Josh off the half-back flanks to start, and obviously they run through.
Yeah, we'll see. They can play the game, defend where you need to, and then attack where we need to. So
it's pretty exciting that have those two.
Well, it'll ask a lot of questions of the opposition when we're playing the way we want to play. I'm watching the tapes of all of us, our system at the moment. We've got some work to do on certain parts of the game, like every team would be thinking right now. Yeah, it's pretty exciting to think those two players are unbelievable users of the football.
Yep. Back onto Pendlebury for a moment. Obviously, you coached yourself, having played the game, and you've played with other players who've gone on to coach, the Scotts and Voss, Lepich amongst them. Is he a natural in that space down the track to be a coach himself?
Yeah, no doubt. He's coaching now. What capacity is up to him? Yeah, no doubt. He's got all the skill set to do it. I think openly he's said that in the past he'd like to go down this path. It's a big drop in salary with the soft cap. Maybe we can get to work on that.
Is he one of those ones who may not even need the traditional going to be an assistant coach like you were for the best part of 20 years, or does he?
I think that's a bit rich
You
these
benefit
days.
from that.
I think this game is so demanding. The lessons learned, the experiences of others.
Underneath someone else.
Well, you got to walk in the shoes of in the position. It's like there's a lot to be learnt in coaching. I'd be very surprised if someone would go that far.
Yep. Off-field, Craig, too, again, there's a perception off the field, externally as to what there is internally. I know the club is very defensive about it all. I'm referring obviously to the changes. Graham Wright, Justin Lepich, Brendan Bolton, Derek Hine. There's been a bit going on. Just from your perspective, did it destabilise partially what happened last year?
I thought it was a difficult year, managing all the emotions of all that. I know personally, Graham and I are great friends and have a great relationship, still do. Loved working with Roddy. Those things we lived through. I'm certain that we'll be in a better position for all of this, no doubt. There's things we had to live to get to here, and Charlie Gardner's come on board is fantastic, really calm, great support for myself and others, and it's like he's been here for 10 months, he's been here for 2 months. So those changes, somewhat you go at the time, we're sure we're going in the right direction here, and then you go, now we are, here we are. To getting from A to B sometimes can be a bit hard. You have to go over some rocky roads at times to get there. We'll be better for all of it.
Yep. Do you put a percentage on what it did by way of affecting where you finished last year on it?
These things are hard to measure.
Yeah.
They are hard to measure. I know we had to pull ourselves together at times when we're sort of heading in a direction and going, no, come on, we're going this way. Come on, we're doing this. There's a level of that. But I think every club would think that through their journey, wouldn't they? We've got to pivot here, we've got to change, we've got to get better, we've got to connect more, whatever it looks like. It's hard to put percentages on things.
Yep. You mentioned the coaches' wages, and I know you may not want to venture into this space, but are you the one cohort, the coaching cohort, to have not emerged properly since the COVID recovery of the game?
Sorry, I don't know the context.
When the finances got cut across the board, basically, the coaches, I feel anyway, and I know some coaches, Chris Scott or others have said this publicly, privately, feel that the coaches themselves haven't returned to anything like what it once was.
I'm not going to stand on my soapbox and beat my chest, but the game has never been in better shape. The profits margins are huge for the AFL and some clubs, not all, I get it. Yeah. And our staff, I'll fight hard for our staff, not just coaches. Yep. That soft cap is a cost. It's a cost of growth. And things like PD are in soft cap. Like you're capping our growth. Come on, let us grow. We got a group downstairs that really want to get better, and then they're capped on it. They go, come on, let's give us a chance to improve ourselves, because the product of the game is in good shape. Do you want it to continue to be in good shape? Again, I'd like to think that there's parameters. I'm not going to sit here with my hand out saying pay us all more. No, but I think a lot of our staff work really hard for little reward. Yeah. That needs to be listened to.
Again, we could talk about this for hours, and I know what you're saying. Is there one thing that you would encourage the game to do to at least start the fix?
The soft cap you're talking about? Oh, there's so many things you could sort of take out. We all have the same competitive advantages for jumpers, but they're in the soft cap, or there's things that are in there that, from power aids to GPSs, we all have the same systems, but they're in that's a cost. Well, it's a cost to the putting the team on the paddock, but is it a cost that's required to be in the soft cap? I don't know. I'd do a good audit on the game or what's in it. I've already suggested that to Commission last year. I just think we would like to grow with the game. When there's record profits and margins going to the AFL, and then there's a $250,000 increase to a cap that's already well under what it used to be, it's hard to take that sometimes.
Yeah. Is there a breaking point that we're getting close to in that space?
in which space? Like him?
The lack of funding.
No, there's a level of frustration that's,
yeah,
and I'm speaking on behalf of all my staff.
yeah,
I'm not sitting here trying to drive any agenda for myself or anyone else. Our staff have a frustration around the soft cap.
yeah. Look, you're not on your own. I mean, as a club or a senior coach, I wouldn't have thought. Do you speak to other coaches about it as well? Or?
I've got an AGM coming up shortly. It's on at 4:30, so I'm sure there'll be a collective discussion around those things. I've never been really until now probably spoken openly about the soft cap but when my people are really starting to have louder voices about it, I need to listen.
Another big picture matter, and again, if you don't want to answer it at all, don't worry. The illicit drugs policy, it's in the news again. AFL wanting to make some changes. Do you have views on it? Having, I suppose, experienced it at least initially as a player, but more so now as a senior coach with how it works. And I know there's a level of intelligence or information that you don't get as a coach as well. Do you have a view on where it's at?
Not particularly. No. I want all our young men to be great human beings and represent themselves well, represent a club well. Those things I have great beliefs and values in. But the policy itself is set up for a reason, and you have to ask others if it's working or not.
Can you win the flag in 25?
Well, I think your language of all in is interesting. We're going to continue to get ourselves in a position where we'd like to qualify. That's always that's only ever our focus. Until you qualify, there's no point aspiring to more than that. We'd like to think our best is going to be really hard to play against, and try to bring our best as much as we can. Huh?
The all-in, some people look at it as a bad thing given what could happen down the track, but surely being all-in's what you want to do as a coach and as a player.
I think I'm happy to stand in front of our faithful and say that as long as I'm coaching, I'll continue to try to make our team the best it possibly can be. So if that means Dan Houston's available, let's go get Dan Houston, and let's not call it. Let's just try to get better. Why wouldn't we want that?
Try to win enough games to make it.
I just want to continue to try to just strive to be the best we can possibly be, and there'll be challenges along the way with whether it's the way that the draft is or it's the salary caps. There's all going to be restrictions on things, but I don't want to stand still and try to make this club better than what it is right now.
Thanks for your time as always.
Thanks, Damo.